and I used to work at Theological Education by Extension College in South Africa. And while I was there, I wrote a course on HIV and AIDS and Christian response to it for the diploma and degree programs. So, and I was working as a pastor, so I was involved with people who were HIV positive, and obviously people who are affected by AIDS. But now I'm working at a theological college in Cambridge in England, and I'm training people for the Anglican ministry and other independent students. So I'm working more in a European context, but I worked in an African context, and in my earlier life I worked in a West Indian context, where HIV/AIDS is as big a problem as it is here in Africa.
Okay. For more light to that, could you please tell me what prostitution has to do with HIV/AIDS?
Yeah.
Your view about prostitution and HIV/AIDS.
If you think of prostitution as the objectification of people who are prostituted, and I'll talk about women for now. Male prostitution is an equal problem. But for the moment, we'll just use this as an example. When a woman is a prostitute, she's being treated as a commercial object, a thing. And as a thing, she is only of human value when she is acting. It's the goods that people buy. The result is that she's very vulnerable, because of course a prostitute is only of value so long as she can sell her services. That makes her very, very vulnerable to exploitation. She is a thing, she needs to be a good product. If she is a damaged product, and I'm sorry to talk like this, but that's how people think, then she is thrown away onto the rubbish heap. So there is enormous pressure on prostitutes to perform, to look good, to offer the services that people want. That's the first thing. The second thing is that the sex trade means that people are not their own, they are not in command of their own lives. And not being in command of their own lives, they are under the control of somebody else. They are being exploited. So they're objectified and they are exploited. And very often, as you know, it's a form of slavery.
Exactly.
And the sex slave trade is huge. The amounts of money that are being earned through it are probably the third largest form of illegal activity in the world. The result of that is that people who are things, they are under pressure to perform. They are not masters or mistresses of their own bodies. They are not able to look after themselves physically or emotionally or spiritually. Now, what relation it has to do with HIV/AIDS is quite straightforward, and I can use an example. When we were living in Rosettenville in Johannesburg, which is an area where there are a lot of migrant populations, a lot of drug lords moving in from other parts of Africa, and the drug lords are also involved in the sex trade. The women, and I'm talking about 1999, were offering to have sex with a man for 10 rand. £1, $1.50,
Wow.
more or less.
So cheap.
With a condom,
Okay.
because there was a lot of teaching about condoms. Without a condom, 20 rand.
So there's a choice.
£2, $3. Now, there is, for some people who are exploiting women in this way, a desire, and we could talk about the reasons for that, but I don't think this is what this is about. They want sex without a condom, so they pay double the amount. And of course the woman then is extraordinarily exposed to the possibility of HIV/AIDS. So what you've got there is an immediate link between the inability to defend yourself physically or sexually or medically and the act of prostitution. And you know perfectly well that any protection is only partial anyway. and people who are having multiple sex partners are simply under extreme danger. I suppose the other thing is that because some women who are involved in the sex trade are usually under the control of somebody who is some male, almost always, who is much more powerful than they are. Prostitutes not simply having sex with their clients, they're also having sex with their masters. So, and that then just increases the danger, it escalates the danger by a very high proportion. So I think it is simply a case of a lack of regulated sex with people who themselves have very little sexual morality, who are therefore likely to have multiple sex partners and are spreading AIDS very widely. Women, as we know now, being much more susceptible to HIV because of the tearing of the female genital tissues. They go from man to man to man. Many men who have sex with them may find themselves not being infected by HIV, but simply the woman is the recipient of the virus time after time after time. Maybe the third thing to say about this is that because having unprotected sex, these women regularly have children, and then they have dependents who they have to look after. They are forced into situations where they're having to continue to prostitute themselves, even if there is an opportunity to run away. Now they are trapped by the multitude of children that they have. That's probably enough for starters. It's terrifying just to say those things. One could say more, but I don't know if there's anything else you want to ask.
Yeah, I would want to find out you talked about training or bringing up pastors. Yes, so I just want to have the connection between prostitution and religion. Do you think there's some sort of connection that what religion has to say about prostitution? What account would you give of that?
Well, I think that the first thing is that the relationship between prostitution and religion is that the Christian faith says that people are not objects. People have value. They are created by God. They're created in the image and likeness of God. And whether you're male or female, rich or poor, slave or free, Jew or Gentile, you can say it like St. Paul does. You have complete value for who you are and not for what you do, not for the character of your body. So the Christian faith, and I'm not going to talk about other religions now, the Christian faith says that prostitution is wrong, first of all, because it objectifies people. The Christian faith says, secondly, that prostitution and promiscuous sex of all kinds is wrong because we are called, married or single, to be chaste. Sexuality, physical relationships with other people, are a physical expression of a relationship which already exists. If that relationship already exists, then, in the context of marriage, that can be expressed through genital sex. If people are not married, then there can be a physical relationship, maybe of touch, but it must not go so far to the extent. So those are the basic points. Christians, therefore, say, and the Bible says, that we may not prostitute ourselves. And indeed, in the Old Testament, the relationship of an unfaithful Israel with God is likened to the relationship of someone with a prostitute. Prostitution is like selling yourself out to the cheapest bidder, which can be any god that is passing by. So